Hello there, and welcome to, I don't know, what do I even call this? Kristen does Nancy Drew, Kristen's reactions to CW Nancy Drew, whatever it is, we're here. A little bit of real talk today. It is really crummy outside. It has been snowing for the last 2 days. I am still stuck inside my own house, and I am ready to binge the rest of this season. So, I'm going to try to power through here and make a couple of videos on the last two episodes that I watched, even though I may not be at 100% right now. In order to get myself in the mood, I have put on my fancy Nancy Drew t-shirt from outofprint.com. I don't know if these are still available or not. I'll take a look. But I got this a couple of months ago, and it's a little too big, but it's nice and comfy and feels good for a bleh sort of day. So let's hop to it. Episode 14 of the CW show. So first of all, I was kind of shocked when Darcy, Lucy's mom, showed up at the Claw. I didn't quite understand what was going on there when she just started working, but they quickly explained that she used to work there, and then that was a pretty obvious lead-in for Josh, her son, having grown up with her working there, knew where the key was to be able to get in and do the whole thing where he poisoned Ryan's food later on. So after that, it did make sense with the lead of the week thing that I kind of picked up on after the last episode there, because now we're shifting the focus, whether or not we knew that that was happening to Josh in this episode. Then another call out to the locations in the books. I liked that Josh was taking his mom to the Golden Pavilion after Larkspur Lane burned down as for a place that she could stay. It did seem weird to me that Josh was Nancy to the Clue Crew when he came to get his mom from the Claw, though. Like, I get that they were talking about Lucy's death in front of her. That was pretty insensitive, but Josh didn't totally know that, and they had been making sure she didn't hurt herself or anybody else while he was getting his car to work and everything. Or I guess she had left him. So getting to his car, having Nick pick him up, I don't know. It just didn't seem nice. Have some chill, man. Like, they helped you out. Then, also gross. So when they were looking at that cork board with all of the clues for Nancy, when she was putting together the case to help Carson get out of prison, it was just like all wet and had Lucy's like gross ghost handprints all over that, and it was like leaking water. Does corkboard dry from that, or does it just mold? Because I feel like either way, George has to toss that afterwards. So thanks, Lucy. You owe us a rolling corkboard. I can't say I've really seen one of those recently either, so I don't know where they're going to replace that. Next, I was an absolute wreck at the idea of Ace leaving the show to go to Paris with Laura. I sort of knew that he wasn't really going to go, but with this being the first season of a show, you never know. Like with New Girl, they had the first episode and then Coach got picked up on Happy Ending, so he didn't come back until much later in the series. I didn't know if it would maybe be something along the same lines here, and this was how they were going to write him off the show. Stuff like that happens all the time. So I didn't think you'd go, but I thought there was still a chance just based on the logistics of everything. And really it was the whole gambit of emotions with Ace on this episode, because when they said they had to go to the library and he said he couldn't go because he had enemies there, like I literally had to pause the episode and rewind because I was laughing so hard that I missed whatever they were talking about next. That was great. Then another fun little Easter egg while they were at the library, somebody walked by with like a giant stack of those yellow spined Nancy Drew books. And then he had some really good small like throwaway comments that he made to Nancy, just kind of justifying his behavior. But I feel like while they were at that library, it opened up a lot of explanation as to why Ace's character is the way he is. So he's got this very chill vibe, like problem solver, doesn't really seem to get upset about anything. But then here we also see that he has this underlying paranoia. So he, when he was younger, convinced his mom to up the security at the library. He installed the keystroke tracking software on the library computers. So that kind of put it into perspective for me, that he has all of this paranoia, but he takes actions to sort of be prepared for the worst case scenario. So he's able to be chill because he has taken those precautions. Or, I don't know, maybe he's just on great anxiety meds. Then Ace's rivalry with Dominic at the library was kind of interesting. It made me think that he had some sort of a jealousy thing going on where she got to work with his mom at the library. And it sounds like his mom has worked there for a long time. You don't just develop a rivalry overnight. So maybe Dominic had been like an intern at the library or had volunteered and his mom had really helped her out. And he was jealous of that because he wanted that when Dominic was getting it. And then they took on similar interests there. I'm putting a lot here with very limited rationale for it. I get this feeling. Then, jumping ahead to Amaya, Bess's mentor. I think I was ignoring her even though she was very overtly interested in Bess in kind of like a gross way at first. Because I was just so invested in Lisbeth. So I'm going to be absolutely devastated if Bess messes up what's going on with Lisbeth just because she needs to make the Marvins happy and, does something with Amaya that is going to make Lisbeth mad. So fingers crossed, that's not a thing that happens. Then once they started reenacting everything to figure out / confirm Ryan's guilt at the Claw, I was hesitant as to where they would go with this because we already saw that first episode. So we already saw everything that happened. But I liked the way that they talked through it and people didn't realize what other people were doing. And then there was the whole deal with the salad. It worked out well. Much better than I had anticipated. And then they gave that whole thing about how Owen was supposed to have been there and he wasn't. So then there was the whole are we suspecting Owen now? But then when the power went out and Nancy was following the static on her phone that Lucy was leading her by, all of a sudden this ghost of Lucy shows up and is crawling on the ground towards Nancy. I would have absolutely pooped my pants had that been me, which I guess just one more thing to add to the list of reasons as why I was not a teen detective. But then did that remind anybody else of the Silent Hill video games where you had to have the radio and when the static got really intense, that was when the creepers were nearby? It's been so long since I played those, I don't remember what they're actually called. But that seems like kind of a direct callback there. Then I have decided that in moments where Nick is the level-headed, logical, not freaking out about things person of the gang, we're going to refer to him as Level-Head Ned, hereby henceforth. But when he was encouraging Ace to go to Paris, now I get it, he wasn't actually encouraging Ace to go to Paris, he was encouraging him not to half-ass anything. Go all in or not in at all. I was going to be mad if Ace went as a result of Nick's advice, but then it ended up turning out Ace didn't go because of Nick's advice. Great. I think if he had gone, though, after watching that conversation with Nick, I would have accepted it more. And I think just from this point forward, if Nick thinks something's a good idea, I'm just going to roll with it. That's how we approach this show from now on. And finally, when Nancy tracks Lucy's emails to her brother's shop, ends up confronting him, that was a pretty good quintessential scene out of a Nancy Drew book, minus the fact that she didn't get knocked unconscious. But when he was electrocuted, my jaw absolutely hit the floor. I don't know how I feel about the really bad CGI, electricity around the puddle and the chains. And then when he fell backwards and got tangled in the chains and his whole face morphed into something, was that really good because it was a callback to the old B-list horror movies? Or was it really bad because it was so obviously CGI and bad? We're going to stay optimistic and go with the call out to the old horror movies. So with that, I'm going to go ahead, check out episode 15. I keep calling them chapters. I'm copiously taking notes on these and I keep writing chapter 15. Anyway, like and subscribe. Check out my video on chapter 15 and stay safe. Until next time, toodaloo, Nancy Drew.